What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Be Better podcast. I'm here with a fantastic guest of mine, a person I admire and respect more than just about anybody out there. Episode 19, Mike Sikorski. Thanks for coming on, Mike. How are you?
Hey, what's going on, man? How you doing, Nate?
Very good,
Glad to
very
be
good.
here.
Thanks, man. Absolutely. I'm also here with my new co-host, Matt Alexander. Matt, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Doing great. Hey, Mike, how's it going?
How's it going, Matt?
Cool.
Oh, man,
Let's do this.
Yeah,
exciting.
man. So once again, dude, thanks again for coming on. And Matt, once again, welcome to the show. This is going to be fantastic first episode to get things rolling. I want to jump right into it, man. I know that, we have a lot to cover. I wanted people to get to know you and learn more about you and the band and everything else. For people out there who don't know you, Mike, could you just go ahead and give me a rundown of who you are, what you do, all that good stuff?
Yeah, Mike Sikorski. I am original member, guitarist for Divine Sorrow. That was established in 2000. And beyond that, I have a regular day job. I'm a construction project manager. I've been at that for a long ass time, longer than I care. I'm a full-time husband. I take care of all my own business. I built my own house.
Wow.
I dig and fishing and all things outdoors. You name it, I've done it more than likely.
How do you keep it all organized?
One day at a time, man. Just one day at a time. You get you get projects that's something you get passionate for. Then you kind of really focus on that until you finish it, and then move on to the next thing.
That's respect. Yeah, that's great. That's great.
So I want to touch on something before you said a lot there, which I think we can cover. Obviously, I know you're a very well outdoorsman. I mean, your family is the one that got me into hunting and fishing religiously, and now I travel with you guys every year for deer season. Your son and I own lake property. We fish all summer long. I mean, so thank you for getting me involved in that as well. I know you're a crazy
No,
outdoorsman. Just getting back from Florida, Nick was telling me you guys caught some big boys down there. So
we did.
yeah, man, it's a good trip. He also told me about the hotel experience, not the
Well,
most favorable.
Oh man,
to say the least.
Oh
Yeah.
what
boy.
part of Florida did you go to?
What's that?
What part of Florida did you go down to?
Clewiston is at the southern toe of Lake Okeechobee.
Shelby.
Uh,
What part?
fishing Roland Martin's place out there.
Oh wow.
It's pretty wild, man. I mean, if it's not like being on the Lake of the Ozarks or any place you've ever been. Really, the lake is huge, but where you're fishing is on the outer perimeters, which is kind of more like Everglades looking. It's pretty wild. Gators.
That's
I
crazy.
mean, yeah, they're all over the place.
What a blessing. I'd love to go down there and rip some lips and see me a gator or two and smack it in the ass. But before
Like
we get
Russell.
into the fishing stuff, I want to talk about, probably the most important part of this conversation is, Divine Sorrow, right? Obviously I've been familiar with the band and you for quite some time, but for people that don't know, like, how did the band get started? What's the purpose of the band? I know you guys have released quite a few great albums out there. You've been sponsored on some national platforms. Like, tell us more about that.
So, for me, how it got started, one of the former ex original members, Matt Depew, I was in several bands with him, and I took a hiatus when I built this house. I quit the original band that I called Caustic, built this house, and just started really playing again. And he called me up and asked me if I'd be interested in an original project, told me about, what it was like. And it was in it with a guy that he went to high school with, Brian Chappell. So Brian Chappell is the founding member of this band. He is the principal songwriter of this band. So when I came in, obviously I had my own styles, and a lot of times, he'll come in with most of the song, but sometimes I'll write my own guitar parts. Sometimes I won't. Um, he can play bass, guitar, drums, and sings. So basically, you know, like I said, once again, they're his songs. I bring my own flavor to them, my style.
Is there a style that, or what would you call your style?
I mean, my personal style, I'm probably more of like a 70s sounding guitar player. Um, that's just because that's what I listened to when I was growing up. But the band is, I would call progressive hard rock. I mean, some people call us a metal band. I don't think we're a metal band. I think we're a hard rock band.
Oh, wow. Very interesting. So
I
where do you
bet
find that?
More the lines of, Alice in Chains and Tool and stuff like that.
so. Is
Good
that where a
heavy.
lot of the influences from Divine Sorrow comes from? Is those bands like that? Is that kind of where it stems?
Yeah. I mean, from my perspective, I mean, everything from Kiss to Alice in Chains and everything in between. Brian has his own influences. He's I'd probably be talking out of turn if I would mention them for him. But and I think everybody kind of has their, the group that we have now. I mean, everybody's come from their own place and brings their own thing to the table. But it's meshed well. I like the new lineup. We've been together for 7 years now. This particular lineup, at least 7 years. Yeah. So we don't have any big-headed band, which is a big deal because one bad apple can spoil the whole bunch. We had that prior with a number that I won't mention, but he's gone now and he made out with his life. So he got on my wrong side more than once. Not in this particular lineup. Everybody gets along great, man. Everybody's on the same level.
Yeah, I think that's critical, man. Not only in a band, I've never been in a band. I have about as musical talent as a fucking acorn, but you know, I think in life in general, in any organization, any company, any team, the one bad apple does spoil the bunch. I think the dynamic of a team, right? Because the band's a team, right? You guys are all working towards the same goal to release the best product, to put on the best shows, to reach the largest audience possible. And if your team is not 100% in sync with each other, playing with each other's strengths, right, focusing and helping each other's weaknesses, then you're fucked. I mean, your foundation is totally banged up, and I'm happy to hear that for the last 7 years you found a winning group that really just wants to dominate. But I want to take it back even before that. So you guys started the band, quite some time ago. Like, I'm curious as well. Like, I've never started a band. What are some initial challenges just to even do that? To get, this is not a garage band. You guys are pretty well established. You guys have been on the radio multiple times, national circuits multiple times. Like, how does somebody go from a, a dive bar fucking band to something as big as Divine Sorrow? What does that path look like?
Well, I mean, I was in original bands before that. Cover band. Nothing wrong with it. You're covering someone else's music.
Right.
When we started this band, basically, know what direction we were going to take. I mean, I brought in songs. Our old guitar player Matt brought in songs, and then I heard Brian's songs, and I said, "We need to be playing his songs. They're better." That's all there was to it. The songs were better than with songs, and so we.
So Mike, I want to touch on something, kind of important that I wanted to ask you. So Divine Sorrow has now been featured on, national circuits, national radio, all over the place. You guys open for All American Rejects, see 1,000 faces, as you said. How does the band go from, anybody's band, not just Divine Sorrow, but how does the band go from cover band, garage band, dive bar band to being nationally recognized and known on that large circuit? Like, how does that transition happen?
Well, I've got to be honest with you. I mean, we started the band, nobody knew who we were. We're all tenured musicians, so we got together and started our principal rehearsals and basically came up with the first CD when recorded it at Sawhorse Studios out there in South St. Louis. Jason McIntyre is the wizard out there. He's amazing. But we recorded it and
started floating it out there, and before I knew it, someone had leaked it to KC95, and they were playing it on their afternoon drive. You know, and that's basically what kind of blew up from there. It was a bit of a phenomenon. It kind of happened, you know, like it grew legs and took off. I mean, it's really all I can understand to describe it. It was a surprise to me as it was anyone else, I suppose.
Yeah,
Wow,
no,
Surprise.
no doubt. How let me ask you this, because I've never been in that situation. I definitely probably never will. How surreal was it for you to be driving home and see, or excuse me, and hear your own song on the radio?
It's pretty wild, man. You know, like that scene in the, you know, that movie, That Thing You Do or whatever, where
Yeah.
they hear their song, kind of like that. And for, like I said, a couple of years, I would hear it regularly, and longer than a couple of years, because then we were played on other radio stations and podcasts. And,
Is that the moment where you think everything just like it felt real to you? Like what part of that process or transition like you felt like, wow, this is the real deal? Was it like
yeah, and, you know, you gotta live in the moment, but you know, you just want to keep your head on your shoulders and take the highs and the lows, man. You don't want your head to get too big. You just, you know, just gotta, you know, it was surreal, but you gotta just accept it for what it is and enjoy the moment. You know, that's all you can do.
absolutely, yeah, being in the moment's the most important thing in life. You really grasp and enjoy that um just
Yeah,
excitement and realness.
ride the wave.
Ride
So
the
what's
wave.
Yep.
so what was the next part of that once you established being, you know, kind of the top of, you know, Mount Everest? What was the next step for you? What was your thoughts of the next transition of things?
We actually had a promoter that flew out here from California and was going to throw us on tour, put us on a sound stage, and get us rehearsed up for that, and take us out on tour. And I was just probably within a month away from quitting my job and doing that. And, you know, as life is full of twists and turns, the guy that was going to be a benefactor had a stroke and died.
Oh wow! Oh no!
So that was kind of a kick in the nuts. And you know, then you go back to your regular job, going, well, shit. And we said, you know, well, it doesn't, you know, just keep on doing what we do, and that's what we've been doing, and having fun with that. So we're still writing, we're still hell, in early April we're doing a show with Aaron Hager, Sammy Hager's kid.
That's awesome.
And he actually to come and sit and play. We're gonna do some Sammy Hager songs, and then apparently he sounds just like his old man. So he's gonna sing. We're gonna play a few of our songs, and he's gonna tell some stories, and then we're gonna do some songs with him.
That's fantastic. So I want to, excuse me, I want to touch on something really quick. So it sounds like the band and you guys were on the edge of glory, right? I mean, like right there at the finish line. And then absolute, you know, for all those people who play Mario Kart, blue shell came out of nowhere and took you out. I mean, that's probably the most traumatic thing happened. How did the band, you know, recover from that and like basically, you know, obviously get back on the horse, ride the wave, roll with the punches, whatever you want to say? How was the band able to recover from that? And basically, what was the transition to kind of back to, you know, to get back on the horse?
It really wasn't any transition. I mean, it happened, and we're all grown men. We took it for what it was and said, well, we'll just keep on doing what we do. You know, we still had a good following. We still got great songs. We're still a great band. We're just going to keep playing. So that's what we did.
That makes sense. And nobody else from that agency like reached out or anything, or like
They don't
No,
replace.
I mean, he actually Guns N' Roses manager for a while. So yeah, he was independent. He was not working for a record company.
damn.
So it's just the way it goes, man. I mean, if it were to happen right now, I don't know that I would even go, but I won't never say never.
Well, so sounds like you still have that passion, and you're living the doing the um shows right locally. I mean,
I love to play, yeah.
yeah, that's fantastic. You still have that love for it. Wow.
Yeah. Uh,
What was one of the most memorable moments during that journey?
hmm. Well, definitely seeing my head on a 50-foot screen would be right up there. Hanging out backstage with Phil Anselmo, from Pantera, that was pretty surreal. Getting to meet, open for Ace Frehley was pretty much a bucket lister for me.
Oh,
Those were some pretty big moments, I'd say, yeah.
Ace Frehley, man, Space Ace himself.
Yeah.
wow.
I know a funny story about, not really them, but Kiss, right? So his Mike's son and I went and saw Kiss, God bless, sometime late last year. And them being 80 years old, put on a phenomenal show. And then Mike is like, "You guys don't know shit. I saw them in their prime." So like, it's
I
always
did.
funny. Oh, I can only imagine how extravagant of a, of a show that would have been, seeing Kiss live in their prime and all that good stuff. But so whenever you're playing or, opening or hanging out with these big names, like what is that really like? I've been very unfortunate. I've only met like maybe two famous people, and they've always kind of been dicks to me. So like when you met and opened for, Ace Frehley, and you talked about Phil Anselmo, like what is that experience like, meeting those famous people? Like, are some of them
Ace,
cool, some of them dicks? Like how does that work?
yeah, you just never know. Ace was very standoffish. Um, Phil Anselmo was awesome, one of the most gracious people you'd ever want to meet. Sebastian Bach was probably the biggest prick you'd ever want to meet.
Oh no.
Just what an asshole. I was really thinking about knocking him out. I was literally, after the show, selling T-shirts by him. He's selling his and we're selling ours. He's like giving me dirty looks, I'm like, what are you giving me dirty looks for? You're fucking Sebastian Bach. I'm some random guitar player. Like, what's your trip, dude? I don't know. He's just an asshole.
Dude,
Well, some guys are.
that guy has a fucking reputation for just being the biggest crybaby ever.
I'm not familiar with
Yeah,
them. Oh,
Sebastian Bach, wasn't he with the and I'm gonna date myself, Mike, and you're gonna grill me here. Was he with the Scorpions? Is that where he started, or Whitesnake?
Skid Row.
Oh, Skid Row, that's what it was. That's right. Excuse me.
oh.
Skid Row, and he went and did his own thing for a little bit, but he's just kind of a crybaby, man.
And nobody knows any of his solo stuff.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I only know him because of Trailer Park Boys back in the day. He was on there, and even on Trailer Park Boys, he was a little bitch. So
Ah,
it's kind of funny.
I didn't know he was on Trailer Park Boys.
Yeah,
yeah.
like season 7 or something like that. He's on there, and he's just being he's just being Sebastian Bach, dude.
Yeah.
I gotta be honest, Mike. This is all that genre is kind of so new to me. The first concert I've ever went to was Metallica, and that was such an eye opener. I started to kind of look into things, but I just didn't know the names at the time, and I kind of transitioned to the typical, I guess, noticeable people like AC/DC. Right now, I've been in love with Kiss, so I mean, it's hopefully I kind of get more knowledgeable and more experience with these different genres. But am excited to kind of branch out, and you have to give me some more people to listen to. I have to listen to you.
Yeah, sure, man. Yeah, go back, listen to like UFO. That's a good oldie one. It's called great live album called Strangers in the Night, UFO, and the guitar player from that, Michael Shanker. He's, I think, one of the best guys that ever pick one up. But it's so vast. I mean, have you listened to any old Rush?
I have never. No, I have. I'll have to listen to
Or
them.
Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon. There's a lot of good.
Insert classic here.
Funny story about Dark Side of the Moon. So that's like one of my favorite albums to listen to whenever I'm fishing, and I always seem to have really good luck when I play it.
I heard this story.
When I was in Florida with Nick last week, put it on. He's like, oh my God, you're going to play that again? And I put it on and we started catching fish. Crazy. I go, are you going to sneeze at my Dark Side of the Moon album anymore? He's like, nope, I'm buying in.
When Nick told me that story earlier this week, I was like, dude, I bet money there's a scientific reason behind that. I bet there's a frequency in that song for whatever reason the fish just like, dude, and they turn on. I guarantee it, man.
I don't know, man. It's
music.
horrible for me.
Oh my God, that's fantastic. You know,
So speaking
Mike, I'm sorry, go ahead, Matt.
So speaking of, I mean, you have all these different people you came across and worked with, or worked, like played with them. Have you ever collaborated with any of them?
No. I mean, these touring bands, so a lot of them, you know, if we're opening for them, they're probably not at the height of their career, you know. So they're just going out touring. I mean, a lot of them they're touring in out of like cars and shit, you know, and they're barely,
Wow.
they're not doing real good, you know, and they're big names still, but like Phil Samo, obviously he came back around and he got with, you know, got Pantera going again. But at the time, the band he was with was called the Illegals. Now they were playing, they were actually, you know, they had a decent tour bus and stuff, but Phil was touring, his mom was on tour with him. It's kind of funny. I'm like, oh, there's Phil's mom. Phil's mom.
She cooks lasagna in the back. It's very good.
More lasagna, mom.
Well, you know, he was a recovering heroin addict, you know, so maybe she was keeping him on the straight and narrow.
Yeah, I had no idea.
You guys, remember the band Days of the New?
Days of the New?
They were Days of the New. They were acoustic back in the 90s, but they were all over the radio. We opened for them, and apparently the singer, you know, they were trying to form another tour going, and the singer's apparently a pretty big drug addict. So we opened the show for him, and we caught the singer trying to climb the fence of the place to get there. He was just going to leave his band so he could go get drugs. And our singer, Brian, actually grabbed him, put him on his shoulder, and walked him back into the damn venue and said, go play with your band. I'm waiting for you.
The industry is crazy, my friend.
And so that he proceeded to have a meltdown on stage, and that was the last show they ever did. Days of the New. You can look. It's pretty wild.
Jesus Christ. Unrelated to music, Mike, I obviously I know you on a personal level, so I'm gonna get a little deeper here, but I've always admired and respected your work ethic. I've always admired and respected your outlook on life, because you're not only are you one of the toughest sons of bitches I've ever met, I think you're one of the toughest people that have ever lived on this planet. I mean, this is just a no bullshit kind of guy, gets work done, plays hard, works hard, the whole 9 yards. I wanted to know if you'd be open to talking a little bit more about maybe the current situation of our country and, you know, kind of your perspective on things.
Wow. So, well, I don't think too much of it, to be honest with you. You know, I mean, the era I grew up in, it was like people were tougher, man. I mean, people didn't hide in their basements and shit, you know. You had to get out and do something. You know, you'd get somebody would punch you in the nose and that would be it, you know. You didn't sue them over it or and I'm not saying nothing against your generation, because that, you know, I know you're a hardworking guy, Nick's a hardworking guy, and there are guys like you exist, but there's so many of them that are just such pussies, man.
No, I agree.
I think everybody in my generation agrees that, you know, if you lined up, you know, 10 people from your generation, 10 people from mine, just the average, right? We're going to be able to see very clearly who's the more successful, who's the hardworking people, right? Honestly, I think it's just, you know, in your DNA, because I think back then, man, in your prime, you know, back when you guys had to work hard, there was no other option, right? There was no social media. Yeah. There was no fucking,
dude. I mean,
there was no more keyboard warriors where like, I'm going to talk shit on you across 1,000 miles of wire because I know I'm never going to see you. You know, like it was like a talk shit, get hit kind of mentality.
Well, yeah, I mean, everyone have that type of accessibility. I mean, if you want to speak to someone, you can text them or call them. I mean, you could call them, but most likely you need to go face to face with them. And I feel like with that type of social interaction, I mean, it builds that type of rapport, respect, and you're able to squash stuff out, using your vocals versus, fingers, right? I mean, there's a difference, unfortunately.
Well, yeah, you had to back it up. If you're gonna talk
Mhm.
shit, you better back it up, or you're gonna get whooped. That's all there is
Exactly.
to it.
Yeah, but not even about just being tough or being, being a puss by any means, but like, where do you think? I think firmly as a society, I think we've really dropped the ball somewhere, not only in our toughness, towards adversity, towards our opponents, towards our adversaries, but I also just think we've lost a lot of our core values in the American household. I think that people are so tied into the instant gratification. I think people are getting lazy because they see, people on TikTok and Instagram, in a private yacht making millions at 21. Like that might be the case. That person might be lying, but that's not going to be everybody's journey. So I think people's expectations on themselves are very, very high. But in reality, when they don't obtain those expectations, then their drive and their willpower diminishes, because they weren't a billionaire at fucking 22. So now their whole life is like, they're behind the eight ball essentially, trying to keep up with the Joneses. And in reality, if they would just get a plan, to work on themselves to obtain their own dreams and not some fantasized social media dream, their life, their quality of life would probably be much better. Where do you think,
Yeah.
Mike, that we lost that?
Well, I think a lot of it is a problem with the education system in the country. It's really gone south. I mean, they don't even correct history anymore. They've changed history. It's the education system, as you know, is very left wing, and I think that's a big problem with it. And when they decided that they should have more say in how kids get raised than the actual parents do, that's a big problem. But as far as not being a billionaire by 22, who the hell is? I mean, you just keep working and you work your way up. You work your way up, and you get what you can to make yourself happy. I mean, it's shit. I'm at the age I am now, and I mean, I still have the same everyday problems everybody else. Like last week, my damn furnace went out. I had my furnace fixed. Did I want to pay $1,500 to get it fixed? No, I paid it because I need the fucking heat on, right?
Absolutely. I don't know. I feel like people set this, like they think outside the box, like meaning as the expectations that I guess Nate was referring to, like, that they want to be a billionaire. Like that's how realistic can that be for the majority of people? Yeah, there's gonna be some people out there who can obtain that task, but I mean, what are we talking about? Less than 1%, less than
Right, right.
0.5? Like that's, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's great to have those aspirations, but it's also great to be real. And there's nothing wrong than aiming for, a little bit at a time. Let's make these little sub goals and or short goals and then work up. There's nothing wrong with that. People don't see that. They just want that instant gratification, right? And they want it now. They don't want to put in the hard work. So for
Right.
you,
I mean,
how do you find that motivation to stay grinding all the time and to put in that hard good work? Where do you think that stems from?
well, I mean, I probably would think my work ethic came from my parents. My dad was raised, right out of the Depression. I mean, the guy that laughs at expiration dates in the refrigerator. Hold on and cut it off and eat it. It's fine. He got up and he worked every day, and my mom did too. And that's just the way I was raised, a working class family.
I can validate
And
that. Nick has a I was over at Nick's house one time, Mike's son, and Mike's mom, Nick's grandmother came over and gave him some cinnamon and a jar of cinnamon. And this Nick looked at the date and it expired in like 2007. This was like 2019. And the cinnamon was fine. There was nothing wrong with it. So, but to his point, I think that's a very funny thing to say, but I think it's so true. They were just
yeah,
built different, man. Built different.
Yeah, absolutely.
and when I started construction in the early 80s, when I was an apprentice and everything, and the guys I worked under that were on their way out, they were actually World War II vets, you know, that they were finishing up their careers and they were in their early 60s or whatever. And you talk about some tough son bitches to work for. You come into work a little bit hungover with those old guys, oh my God, it just rode you unmercifully, you know?
Yeah, but they took pride in that, right? I mean, they went to war, and now they come out of war, and now, you know, they deserve the respect and the work ethic that should be required to get the job done. And, you know, if they have to be hard, they have to be hard, have to get the job done. They should
Right.
be
So
like, I definitely
when I was, they would yell and scream at you all day. You're not allowed to do that anymore. You know, they start crying and stuff. And, you know, I'm a boss now, and I deal with younger guys, and I love teaching young guys. But you know, I'm pretty good at busting their nuts, and I'm not afraid to do it. And I kind of have a little bit of a reputation for it, and then you can, as you well imagine, Nate.
I've been personally, you know, a victim of his scrutiny a couple times. But I will tell you, it's never with ill intentions. It's always a lesson of learning. And what happens? The result is there. Every time that Mike has ever corrected me, every time I've seen him correct his son, every time I've ever seen him correct his grandson, it's always been with love and fucking respect behind it, but to do the right thing, to get things done the right way. So like I love that mentality, man. I'm the same way. Like whenever I was in a position where I had people underneath me, like I don't want to say I ruled with an iron fist because I wasn't. I was more of a leader than a boss, but like some people need a kick in the pants sometimes, man. You know, some people need those stern talking throughs just to get through their thick skull. And you know, the weak people will wean themselves out, in my opinion. That's always kind of how it's been. I know Mike does this. I know I do it in my workplace too, Matt. I'm sure you're in the same way. But you know, if you only accept, you know, excellent behavior from people in the workplace, then you're only going to get excellent results. You know, like people make mistakes, things happen, right? You can't always control everything. But if you set the expectation that we're going to do things the right way, and people go into it knowing that, they're going to, you know, they're going to give you the extra mile essentially to get those things done. Is there correction needed along the way? Yeah, man. And I need correction along the way myself from my uppers, right? I mean, that's just how it works. But the whole point is if everybody sees the vision the same way, you know, if everybody's willing to put in the effort to get things done the right way, then every correction is learning, not disciplinary. And that's what it's all
Right.
Yeah.
So, you know, right. You're not making mistakes. You're not doing very much. So
that's right. Yeah, that's so right.
Somebody's if somebody's trying to make a mistake, I'm never going to get pissed at them about that. You know, I'm going to help them to get it. But if somebody's being lazy, I'm going to tell them to get off their ass. You know,
you have
it's
to.
like okay. It's kind of funny.
Get up, point this way. There, where the job is, the road's the other way. Which one are you going to?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Sorry.
Okay.
It's kind of funny because our jobs are different. Meaning, I mean, I'm sure predominantly you're underneath all males, right? Can we agree with that? I'm sure. And then I'm working with majority female, so it's hard to express the concern of what needs to be done and how it needs to be done. You know, we have to be a little bit more gentle with the communication, you know, and as much as you do get upset, you know, I always tell people, you know, let's never take things personal. It's always coming from a side of, you know, how can we get this job complete in a professional manner, you know, and it's sometimes, you know, we have to step away because the frustrations there, and you know, we have to keep it in a manner of, you know, respect with some of our coworkers. So it's hard to
a little bit talking about walking.
Right.
I mean, I definitely deal with females as well. I mean, and vendors and other. I mean, they're in the office with us too. They, you know, they're scheduling, they run accounting. So I mean, they're there every day, and mainly out in the field. The workers are male. There are a few males out there, but
yeah. I mean, I love
it. You know, you got to bite your sometimes. And I went from being on a framing crew where you say exactly whatever you want to say at any given time to being, a construction manager and dealing with very well-to-do clients and having to buy quite a bit.
Mhm.
So, it's just a balance.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's all about respect too. I mean, if they respect you, I feel like it all kind of just comes together, and with that being said, it makes a big difference.
I think it also comes with like on the opposite end, right? And on your end too. It's a two-way street of just being open-mindedness to feedback and criticism, right? I've had some managers back in my day that are just fucking asshole douchebags, and honestly, they weren't very good at their job, but they had some hate in their heart, and they would take it out on their employees. I've seen that, and then I've seen other managers I've had have been fantastic, and they're like, hey, I'm gonna learn from you just as much as you learn from me. It's a two-way street. If you have any feedback for me, give it to me. But the respect, with the word respect that you both said, is the critical point there. It's the common denominator, right? The word respect has to be shown throughout the whole process. Because if somebody's trying to teach me something, but they're degrading me, they're breaking me down, I'm gonna tell you to get fucked. I mean, dude, I have an ego on me. I don't give a damn who you are. Like, if you're not gonna talk to me in a respectful way, I'm not gonna pay attention. It doesn't matter if you were telling me how to save my life if I was dying of gangrene, right? And you were telling me how to fucking cut off my leg. I would tell you to get fucked, man. Honestly, and it's the same way. People have that nasty, reaction towards people that come that way. So the game plan is be respectful, be collaborative instead of combative, like I said last time, and that way everybody
Right.
learns better. Everybody's more receptive to the feedback. Mike, when you're out there, teaching your guys how to do things the right way, I know you come at it, a stern stance because you want them to do it right, but I know you're being respectful because you want them to, actually listen and not have any, kind of bad feelings towards it. You'd rather have the job done right.
Well, trust me, I've had that. I've worked under. I worked when I was apprentice carpenter. This guy I was working under, he was just a complete prick, and he actually threatened to throw me off a roof. Said, "Well, you can try, but you're coming with me, you fat fucker." And I got tired.
Man,
You did the right thing, in my opinion.
good choice.
Oh man. But like now, could you imagine though, that could never happen nowadays. That conversation alone would never happen nowadays. Otherwise, you'd be on fucking KSDK, you'd be on the news, CNN would fucking fly Anderson Cooper to your house and he'd slide down your chimney. Like you'd have interviews left and right, man. That would never happen nowadays.
No, you can't do that. It's just you can't do. Like you said, that's what you on the news.
It's so bad, man.
Yeah.
What do you I know we're getting kind of pressed here and it's getting late in the hour, so I'll keep this kind of simple. But like Mike, I know we talked a little bit about, obviously your journey. I mean, I think you're a phenomenal grandfather, a great father. I mean, I think you guys really, you built a beautiful home for you and your family. I have no idea, or excuse me, you have no idea how much respect I have for you guys, truly. But I wish more people would have your mentality, and I wish more people had fathers like you because you raised some fantastic kids that are successful. If you could draw me up a plan to fix this country, and it doesn't, I'm not expecting a 1,000-page essay, just a quick couple bullet points. Where would you say we go? How do we even triage this bullet hole of a wound we have?
Well, the first two things I would blow up completely would be the media, the network media, tear it down completely and start over, and our education system, because that's where that's been their plan for all these years. They get in the kid's head and change the mentality. If you teach them wrong and they think it's right, then that's what they're going to believe. And that's a big part of the problem.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think
teach the kids wrong. They actually think it's right because that's what they've been taught. So
Yeah,
they're standing firm on what they think is right, even though they're completely fucked in the head.
We were talking about that last night, Mike. I had a couple of buddies over, and we were talking about just how different. And I'm sure it's a world of a difference between my generation. I've been out of high school for 10 years now. We're celebrating our 10-year reunion this year. It's been a game changer in those last 10 years. I can only imagine when you graduated in the late 80s, right? So
early
80s, excuse me. So that's 40 years, right? So 42 years, right? So in that case, I can only imagine how much of a difference it is for you. But even in just a short 10-year span, we talked about, like, we had some, I wouldn't call them weird, man, because I don't like to judge people too much, but, we had some unique kids that, like, just were a little off, in the school.
Yeah,
Not many, one or two, three, four, maybe, but like, those people were getting help from mental institutions. They were getting help from counselors in the school. Like they were getting help to figure out what the heck's wrong with these kids, to make sure that they're comfortable, that they're not getting bullied, that they're fitting in, that they're being able to make friends, all this stuff. And I feel like that was a much better way than what it is now. Now, if you come in with a fucking tail butt plug and antlers, like you're throwing a parade, and like instead of like giving these kids awards for having these mental illnesses, they should be treating them, in my opinion.
I agree. I mean, the whole uptick in gun violence isn't, guns ain't doing it. It's a mental health issue.
Yeah, the mental health is be changed,
Like
invested in by tons. I mean,
Sure. It's spirit animal, and they're like, oh, isn't that cute? Let's all celebrate that. Maybe you should dress like a human being. And if you want to play dress up, wait for Halloween. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, we all have our own different opinion on gay, straight, trans, all that good stuff. I'm not going to get into it on the podcast. I'm not going to, in my opinion, it's not worth a fucking damn anyways. But where I do draw the line is when people think they're other species. When people, like, for example, my little brother goes to a school out here, and Mike, I think I've told you this, Matt, I don't know if I have, but there's this girl that
the
she,
kitty litter.
she identifies as a cat, and
Yeah.
she shits in a litter box, doesn't go to the bathroom in a toilet. She's making some custodial worker.
Well, they allow her to.
That's exactly right. But they're making. I thought about this. I thought a little bit deeper onto it. I said, so you have a custodial worker there, probably some older man. Maybe his main career is over. He's just working there just for extra income. He's probably in his 60s or so, making maybe 50K a year, maybe, right? And
Right.
just trying to make ends meet. And his job's already hard enough, right? Right. He's keeping the school maintained. He's taking out the trash. Cleaning the urinals, cleaning the toilets. Now they're making this grown man scoop human shit out of a litter box because this girl thinks she's a cat.
How do you justify that? Like, how does one say, "Hey, that is totally fine"? It flabbergasts me. Like,
It's because everybody, the schools districts, man, they're so polluted in their mind, they're so deluded in their mind that they're so scared of a bad news story coming out. If I was the superintendent of that school district, I would feel so bad for that child. I'd say, hey, listen, I'd bring the parents in. I'd say, listen, let's call her Sally. Like, Sally has some issues we need to address. I want Sally to have the best quality of life. I want her to feel comfortable. I want her to live a normal, successful life and be whatever she wants. But we have to come to the reality that no matter what surgery, no matter what she wears, no matter how she acts, no matter what she does, she's not ever going to be a cat. We have to come to that agreement.
Coddling that behavior is the worst thing you can do, because they're just going to expect more coddling, and then it perpetuates, and they never become well-adjusted people.
Yeah.
well, if it stems from the parents, I mean, I'm all for to make the kid comfortable, right? But isn't there a lot? Where's the line in that?
Well, it starts
Looking
with the parents. It starts in the
Yeah.
house, right? It starts in the house where their parents allowing that to happen, in my opinion. It starts with mommy and daddy, like Mike said, coddling them, saying, "Oh yeah, sweetheart, you're a cat. Yeah, you're a cat." And then they fucking go buy her cat toys, and then they fucking have her, drinking milk out of a saucer, and then they get her. I guarantee you, she had a litter box at home before the school had a litter box for her, right? So
Sure.
that's the problem. That's the fucking problem. Okay. And I think the common denominator is we all come to a consensual agreement that this person's not a cat.
All right.
No.
I mean, she got to eat like a cat. Is she gonna eat kid litter and be malnutrient? Like, where's
And it's, gay straight is one thing, but when they're letting the boys go to the girls' bathroom, I mean, if you're born with twig and berries, you got twig and berries, man.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah,
a good point too. I permanently, I have as most people know, we're expecting all that good stuff. Matt, I know you have two daughters.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you, sir. I would not feel comfortable with a grown man going into the bathroom with my little girl.
absolutely not. Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine being comfortable
Take
with
that
this.
dude out.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
it'd be a very tough conversation but it'd be a conversation that you have to have, man, because it's not okay. And I'm not saying, all trans people are rapists by any means. Definitely not. I would never advocate for that. But it's still a little weird. And I can't imagine that, Matt, you have 2 young girls. I can't imagine those young girls going to a bathroom, with their mommy, and then a 6'5" linebacker walks out. I mean, they're all terrified,
right.
I'm sure.
When
Yeah,
they go into sport, they're going to have to, be in competition with a male.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the case, I would have played, fucking women's hockey, and I would have been the next Wayne Gretzky.
Right.
I mean, God bless. I'm a decently sized human being, man. I would have been the enforcer of the year. I mean, come on. Like, it's not fair. If that's the case, then if they're going to do that, then they should allow the actual real female athletes to take steroids, in my opinion.
Well,
It's the only
I
way
don't
to
know.
make sense.
It's definitely not that, right? I mean, what they're doing now is just not the answer.
No, it's not.
no,
I just feel like, too, I'm sorry, Mike, go ahead. I want to hear your input's much more valuable than mine.
whatever. I'm just saying, you need to knock it off and quit allowing it. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, how are you going to let full-grown male? I mean, it's science that males. Now, there's exceptions to the rule, obviously, but males are stronger than females. That's all there is to it. I didn't make it that way. It's just the way it is.
Yeah. I mean, but a man is designed for a certain purpose, and a female is designed for a certain purpose as well. Now, are there great mixes? Like, are there women CEOs? Yes, absolutely. Are there women athletes that are better than men athletes? Yes, absolutely there are. But, if you look at it as a pure biological level, right? Like pure biology, like, men are typically, and I would say in the 90%, more masculine, obviously, more muscle fibers, stronger, obviously more of those masculine roles, which women can take on sometimes for sure. I know a lot of single mothers out there that are better fathers than, most fathers out there, right? But if you break it down, man, at the end of the day, you are what you are, right? You are what you are.
Right.
Exactly.
And when you try to fuck up the formula, that's when everything gets all fucked up, man. Like, you cannot tell me that a fucking box of Captain Crunch is Trix cereal, dude. You can't tell me.
Well, they've turned it into bizarro world. Everything that is wrong, and guys like me are the enemy. Because I'm an older white straight guy. Like,
It's crazy. That's a minority, or people are trying to push it to a minority.
It's the minority trying to be the majority, which they're not. And
Right.
it's like, again, I go back to the media. They push it to make it seem that way. Everybody on Twitter says that's right. Well, no, it's a very small percentage of people trying to act like it's a large percentage.
Yeah, I don't know the percentage. What's crazy about it is that the push is so heavily forceful to these kids, and they want to make these decisions by changing their sex, and it's just, by all means, I understand, but they're just not fully developed yet. And it's a shame that there's some of them who do, and later in life, they wish they were back to their normal, like their original self. And it's so sad. So sad.
Yeah. They push these sex change on these adolescents, and they're taking, puberty restrictors and doing bad things to their wedding parts, and then when they finally grow up and figure it out, it's too late. Then they're just screwed. They got to live the rest of their life not being comfortable in their own skin.
Yeah.
That's what bothers the hell out of me, man. Like, if you're a over 18 adult, at the end of the day, man, do whatever the fuck you want. Like,
right.
Work, pay taxes, be a good person, don't fucking commit crimes, don't be a piece of shit. Like, do whatever you want. Honestly, I don't care. Like, if you want to be gay, own a tank and drive it down the street, go ahead.
Right.
Just, don't drive it through my yard. Like,
don't expect to like be your cheerleader about it.
Yeah, I mean, and also too, why does everybody need a fucking parade every time they have make a decision, man? Like, if everybody could just be normal people, good, hardworking people. It wouldn't matter what sex you were. It wouldn't matter what race you are. It wouldn't matter anything, right? I mean, if people, and there's pieces of shits in all spectrums, right? All colors, all races, all creeds. Everybody sucks to some degree. But at the same time, man, like if people could just be normal and hardworking and mind their business and not have to, rub things in your face or, all this crazy shit, and also have the agreements of like just common sense things, man. Everybody out there that I've ever met wants to live a good life. They want to be healthy. They want to be successful. They want to have a decent income, live a decent life, travel when they want to, see their loved ones when they want to, be safe in their communities. Like all of us can agree on those foundational things, right? Everybody from all walks of life.
For the
Why,
most part.
until we, in my opinion, and I'm fucking, I'm 27 years old, so I haven't been here that long to give too good a perspective, but from the 27 times I've been around this fucking sun, I can say if we could all solve those issues first, then let's start worrying about these social issues, right? Until we solve those first, let's just put the other ones on the back burner for now, because there's still people fucking starving to death in our nation. There's still people being murdered in their own house. There's still people, not being able to make a livable wage and they're homeless, right? Until we solve all of those foundational issues of society, let's put all the social issues on the back burner just for a little while, in my opinion.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's never going to happen because these people are fixated on this shit. It's like, well, then once again, we go back to the education because they tell them it's okay.
And the media.
Yeah, the media backs it up every day.
So Mike, the education system and the media, like, were they still pushing those agendas when you were in, or was it completely different?
Like you watch the news, you never knew what political agenda the broadcaster was. That you got the news was delivered as the news. You really didn't start seeing a huge slant until maybe the last 15 years, 20 years. I really noticed it. I mean, it was out, the left and right's always been there, but they really didn't start going back like till George Bush was president, probably. I really started noticing it. Then once Obama got in there, everything really kind of went to hell. And that's not because he's black or white, it's because he's a radical leftist.
Yeah, that makes sense. What about that's the media side, and that makes sense. And I would partially agree with that for sure, because when I was younger, we would watch the news, and I'll always use 9/11 as an example because that's the earliest that my kind of brain ticks over. Like that was 2001. I was like 5 years old. I think that's whenever my brain like became conscious, is what I like to call it. Everything else before then was like a trial period, and then I finally like realized I was alive, I guess. But I remember watching the news. Every story about 9/11 was the news. It was telling the event of what happened, right? Nowadays, if that happened,
Right.
you'd have the right pushing one agenda, talking about, maybe a warmongering agenda. You'd have the left talking about these oppressed people blew up a tower in revenge for X, right? They'd be on that side, right? So I'm just curious, because you can see any modern, like if you see two outlets, like you see Fox News covering the same story as CNN, they're pushing the agenda both right or left, right? Either way. And the keywords that they use in there push that. But on the education side, Mike, when do you think they started incorporating that in? Because I would even say when I was in school, there really wasn't much. They taught some bullshit that I knew was bullshit. Like when they tried to explain to us why we got into Vietnam, I remember, I'll never forget, I was a sophomore and I called it out. I was like, this is bullshit. I was like, they did not shoot at a fucking boat in the middle of a fucking Gulf of Tonkin. I was like, we fucking invaded them. I was like, we invaded them straight up. I was like, this is bullshit. And the teacher disagreed with me. I was like, no, listen, I have fucking family members that were in Vietnam. Like, this is bullshit. So I don't think there was so much of a brainwashing in my generation. When do you think that came to be?
Honestly, like I said, I when I really started noticing it was around the George Bush era. But I mean, really super hard, like during the Obama administration is when it really got on steroids, to be honest with you.
Well, I think that type of media is selling, right? Because it all stems from getting the proper people or citizens to vote for that type of left, right, or whoever's trying to come into office, so they can shift that money towards whatever, either for funding for X, Y, and Z, or put it more towards the war, to paint that narrative that paints their that goes with their agenda. It's quite deceiving, and I feel like a lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah, well, right
So
now, the administration we have in office right now, I mean, they are just piss poor, and like you watch the network news, and they won't tell you that. They hold this guy's water every day. They prop him up, and it ain't right. I mean, somebody should be just shooting it straight down the middle.
Yeah, I agree with you, Mike, 100%. And this will be the last little segment here we cover before we all get back to our night. But I, like I said before, man, if I ever had a way to run for political office, I would, because like I wouldn't take money from fucking either side. I would say you guys are all fucking stupid. I don't give a fuck about your money. I want to solve the goddamn problem, right? And like I said, man, like whenever, like you said, with the current administration, man, you don't have to be left or right. I'm a libertarian, man. I'm in the middle, honestly. I don't give a shit who runs this place, man. As long as they do a decent job, it doesn't matter, what fucking wing they're part of. I just want the country to be successful. I want the American citizens to be safe and healthy and live a good life. And I want everybody to have equal opportunity to pursue whatever fucking goal they want. That's my whole mission, right? But when I see these people, man, and like they're just so jaded towards one way or the other, and they would rather fight about who's in office rather than figuring out solutions to the problem. That's what really pisses me off, man. Like, I can't tell you, man, like how many presidents have ran on like racial equality, for example. Okay. How many fucking presidents have ran on that platform, but yet there's still, some inequalities out there? How many fucking presidents have ran on fixing the economy, but yet the economy's still shit? Like I don't know, man. It just doesn't make any sense. They run on they use the same recycled fucking material every single time. And they get in the office and they don't do shit because the other side doesn't let them. And every time, like, you got a guy like Trump that wanted to come through and fix the economy, they fucking fought him tooth and nail. They fought him tooth and nail the whole step of the way. And I was like, dude.
And they've been woodchucking before.
But so, you said you're a libertarian, that's cool. I would consider myself a fiscal conservative. I don't care. I really don't. Do whatever the hell you want. Just leave me alone, basically. Smoke weed. I don't care. Do whatever you want. But I don't know why I have to get up and go to work every day to pick someone who fucking won't.
That's the biggest problem.
That's the saddest. Like,
because not only is that an economical issue and it fucks over the honest working taxpayers like ourselves, it's a social issue too, man. Because now, if I was home every day and I saw my parents, collecting, and I saw this video one time with this girl, she had like 9 kids. She was getting 12 grand a month from welfare and all this shit, right? Like, dude, if I come home and I see my mom who's never worked a day in her life, but we're bringing in 12 fucking grand a month because she's got 8 kids, right? Like, why would I ever have a job? Why would I ever go get a job if I know we can do that? If the government's just going to support us, why would I ever go get a job? So I think the first thing is we bring it back to people on government assistance. And some people definitely need it, right? The mentally ill, the old, the sick, the weak. It's there for those people, man. The mentally ill, the whole 9 yards, man. The disabled.
People can't, not the people who won't.
That's exactly right. And that's the word that you need to focus on. The people that can't need to. And I think how we fix that, mandatory drug tests on a monthly scale for everybody on welfare and any government subsidy. You can kick out marijuana there. I mean, I don't partake, but I mean, marijuana is almost legal everywhere. So if people want to,
pretty mainstream.
Yeah, it is. And if people want to, say, hey, that's more medicinal, hey, so be it. Like I said, not for me. I don't even drink. I don't do nothing, but we can kick that one off. But like anybody else who can't pass a drug test for any other of the scheduled drugs, then they should be, lose their funding. I also think there should be a timeline, right? Like welfare was created after the Great Depression, or excuse me, during the Great Depression to make sure people can fucking feed their families until they can get a job. Welfare was only initially proposed for 3 to 6 months for individuals, not indefinitely.
Right.
So I think there's going to be a timeline. Hey, you get 12 months of welfare, and then after that, that's it. I think we implement those two things. Not only we're going to be able to utilize our tax dollars a little more proficiently to give our police department better equipment, to give our schools better education equipment, the whole 9 yards, better roads, whatever the fuck it is. But I don't know, man.
Tough to just shut it right down like a light switch as it is now, but there's got to be some plan to wean it off. A little bit of time, one way or another, because it's going spiraling out of the other direction right now.
Yeah, it is. But look what they did. Remember when COVID, whenever all the unemployed people were getting an extra $600 a week?
Yes.
And us three worked the whole time?
Yes.
The unemployed people were making just as much, or maybe even a little more than most people that were working, which kind of pissed me off. But they gave that for 18 months, and then they weaned them off of that.
Yeah, and the national debt jumped another
$6 trillion. Oh boy, I don't know, but gentlemen, I don't think we're going to be able to solve. What was that, Mike?
I said we could go all day on this subject.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I don't think us three are going to be able to solve all the world's problems tonight, but I hope out there that, and we'll wrap up here because I know it's getting late and we all have to work tomorrow to feed somebody else's family, I guess. But
right.
The name of the game here, guys, whoever out there is listening, just try to be the best that you can in every situation. Try to be the best you can in your workplace. Try to avoid the government subsidies and all that good stuff as well that they do. And I don't know, just try to educate your kids the right way to hopefully have a good foundation to be successful and be hardworking in their lives. And, hopefully people in the audience that have watched this and that will check this out in the future have got some tidbits of information to, maybe some different perspectives, and maybe they're able to identify as well these issues that we face in the country as of now. But I don't know. I mean, we're always just here to get on our soapbox and talk, I guess. But
yeah, and just be better tomorrow than today, right? It's all about creating that motivation to aspire to be something else and something better. So hopefully we can do that for everyone who's watching.
Yeah. Try to make yourself happy. That's the American dream.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's all about, my friend. Well, guys, I guess this is what we'll call it here. Guys, if you've made it this far, if you haven't already, check out Mike Sikorski and Divine Sorrow. They're all over the place. You type in Divine Sorrow on YouTube. They're one of the only options that pop up. Phenomenal band. They have my stamp of approval. If you're local to the St. Louis metro area, definitely come and check out one of the shows. I've been multiple times. It is electric. It is fantastic. The energy in there is phenomenal. 10 out of 10 performance from Mike and the team. And if you haven't already, man, check out the Be Better podcast on TikTok, all the other platforms we're on. Like, share, subscribe, whatever the hell you do, man. If we could be of any help, send us messages directly. But I want to thank you, Mike, for coming on. Matt, I want to thank you as well for your first co-host stream with me. And let's go make the world a better place, fellas.
Absolutely, Mike. It was a pleasure meeting you. And I'm going to be listening to your music after this podcast. So I'll let you know what I feel.
Great meeting you too. And Nate, thanks for having me on. And success, brother.
You got it, brother. Thanks again.